Hey there, I'm Brittany Schroeder, and business and marketing are my jam. I'm here to walk you step by step through this crazy thing we call business. I'm a small town girl, chocolate eating, Diet Coke drinking mom, marketing guru, automation Jedi, and all around good time. This is your weekly dose of all things business and life, sprinkled with some fun. This is the Redefine Business Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Redefine Business Podcast. I am so excited. We have been chatting and talking all things like always. And then I think, I should have been recording this. But Kate is awesome. I've already proclaimed that we're going to be like business besties because she is just a good time and fun and so much knowledge. So Kate, go ahead and introduce yourself to my listeners.
You bet. And a podcast is going to be great when it already starts 20 minutes before we actually hit record, which is so great.
For sure.
So I am Kate All. I own Simple Pin Media. I started it 9.5 years ago, actually as an accident and kind of out of desperation. We were coming out of the recession. I was helping a friend with Facebook marketing at the time, and Facebook had essentially closed down their business pages to make way for their ads platform. But the blogger that I was working for at the time, the Frugal and Deal blogger, that's what they relied on to get traffic. And everybody was freaking out. Like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? So a friend said, let's start investing in Pinterest and see what happens. And it really started to grow. This was 2013. Then late 2013, when my family was really experiencing a crisis, we were living on food stamps, unemployment's about to go away. She says, hey, I just watched this Pinterest webinar. You should manage people's Pinterest pages. And I was like, that is a dumb idea. Nobody's going to go for that. It's crazy. She was like, you're poor. You have no other option. And she was right. And so I said, okay, I'll figure this out over the next couple of months, even see if it was possible to do that. And I fell in love with how Pinterest worked and how I could kind of a little bit gamify the system. And so January of 2014, bought the domain, got 3 beta clients and said, hey, if this doesn't work, don't tell anybody. We'll just down in a heap of flames. Yeah. And they came back and they were like, this is amazing. I don't have to think about it. I can just produce content. You put it on Pinterest. And it has snowballed into a full team of 25. And we've worked with, at some points, 120 clients and community and podcasts, much more than I ever thought. So I like to say I'm an accidental entrepreneur and I'm learning how to be an entrepreneur for the last 10 years.
Oh, that's so awesome. I know. And we were kind of chatting before about Pinterest. And I was speaking on this in my membership the other day, and I was saying, because I was super into Pinterest at one point, and then I kind of I lost interest in it. But you had a point before we hit record where you said there's not the dopamine hit with Pinterest. It's Pinterest, just like SEO, it's a long game, but you don't get that instant gratification. And so I think a lot of times people just overlook it because it's like anything, you have to be consistently putting content out there because there's a search engine built. Can you talk a little bit more about just how it works, how people can use it in their business?
Yeah. So a big way to understand it is we put Pinterest in the bucket of Google and YouTube. So people go looking for answers, thinking about themselves. So we like to think of Pinterest as a cold lead source and Instagram as a warm lead source. So yeah, there's no dopamine hits on Pinterest because I kind of think Instagram is this grind, right? You're grinding it out to get people to connect with you and respond and pull it out of them, but they never leave the platform really. That's their ecosystem, right? Whereas people on Pinterest, they want to shut out the world. They don't want anyone to talk to them. And they approach it thinking, how can I dream, build, plan, travel, whatever it is, ask it any question. And I want to be able to find content or products that serve me. I don't care who the brand is. I don't care who the person is, but I really care about what interests me. So marketers have such a hard time kind of loosening the grip on the grind and going to Pinterest and saying, okay, you mean I just need to create cool images, which I'm probably already good at. I need to think about SEO. And if I'm already doing that with Google, I kind of have that. And then just keep kind of stoking the fire, adding another log to the fire over time. And it builds and builds to where you may have pinned something 2 years ago And now it's bringing this flood of traffic pretty consistently 20, 30, 40 sessions a day to my website. And I can now have people buy stuff or join my email list. And you don't get that with other platforms. So that creates this confusion where people are like, I don't really get it. And it doesn't make me feel like it's doing anything. So I'll just forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it has a way longer lifespan. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Like you can post something 5 years ago, and if people are searching for that problem or solution, your stuff can resurface. And another like really big thing that I push with my clients and my membership is repurposing your content. And if you are going to create a piece of content, whether that be a podcast, a blog, even a piece of content on social media, like repurpose that baby, like blast that out as many places as you can. And Pinterest is such a great tool for that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you talked about a little bit like, and I don't know if you know like the difference, but why Pinterest ads? Because you guys do Pinterest ads as well. Yeah. How do Pinterest ads compare to Facebook ads?
Yeah. Apples to oranges, totally different.
Really?
The thing about a Pinterest ad is you can turn an ad on and you can turn an ad off. It still lives there, right? So if you see my ad and you save it to your board, it's there forever. Yeah. Whereas we can turn Facebook ads on and off. People might not see them. Facebook ads too are for people that are ready to prime to buy. Kind of they're able to warm up to you a little bit quicker. Pinterest users are cold. So you have this longer lifespan, but Pinterest allows you to do the kind of that full funnel experience. We do find Pinterest ads work really well for top of funnel and bottom. So it's very much at that searching, that discovery, like, hey, what are the best jeans for a pear-shaped body? People are really interested in that. Any ads can surface. And then people have high intent and low intent. So that means even if I'm searching for jeans and I happen to see an ad for a really cool bag, I can go down that rabbit trail. So you can target them at these two places. They are more expensive. They do require a longer investment, whereas a Pinterest ad takes 2 weeks to optimize for really the algorithm to understand, okay, what's the pixel doing? Who am I going to send this out to? Whereas Facebook is like, what, an hour or something like that. So when you go to Pinterest ads, you have to understand that your landing page is great. It is set up and ready to go when people land on it and people who don't know you, right? Yeah. And then number two, you're willing to invest 2 to 4 weeks of just data gathering. What's the Pinterest user like? And to your point with content, a lot of the organic content that you're creating on Pinterest will give you a lot of indicators as to what the person likes. It could be how-tos. It could be a lot of different things. Learn that first a little bit about Pinterest, then dive into ads because you can say, man, this is getting saved and clicked on left and right. Let's put some money behind it. Yeah, let's push it out and get more traffic to it. I love it. So I'm a big soapboxer about like growing your email list. So tell us how do you use Pinterest to grow your email list? How does that work? Yeah. So one of the things we like to look at is go back to that content piece. So here's my workflow, and it's very similar for a lot of other people who use Pinterest. I record a podcast. I convert it to a blog post. I optimize for Google and I optimize for Pinterest. We create 2 to 3 images for Pinterest, which are vertical. They're 2 to 3 with kind of like a catchphrase on it or something that's a little bit clickbaity, like, or even just a standard, how to upload a video to Pinterest. Yeah. And we put that onto Pinterest and we use the keywords and we make sure that that original post has a place for them to sign up for something that's a freebie of ours that attaches to the topic. So actually 5 years ago, or more than that, 2017, I pinned a post about how to clean up Pinterest boards. And it took off because I used the word spring clean your Pinterest boards. And it was right about April and May. So then all of a sudden, these people came to us for this checklist that they could download and they could do their own cleaning up themselves. That post, actually, I tallied it up the other day. I think it's brought me 300,000 sessions from Pinterest and over 1,200 new email leads. And I only touch it one time a year for 30 minutes just to make sure that it's updated. And so when we have multiples in the wings like this, then we get that traffic from Pinterest. And what we've learned about our Pinterest user is that they like how-tos. They're really interested in education. They are not ready to buy. We've gone straight to landing page or email sign up page. It's kind of like, well, I'm not ready to commit. So we find that through a blog post is going to be the best way to warm up a Pinterest user.
Okay. So you don't put the actual like landing page link on the Pinterest as the URL. You redirect them to a blog post, educate, call to action at the bottom. So
yeah, we've tried both ways, and we've actually tried multiple ways under ads, under organic, and they're just not ready. It's why when you notice using Pinterest in your analytics, you'll see a high bounce rate coming from Pinterest because they have such intent that they're like, did you solve my problem? Did you not solve my problem? If you did, you'll see a longer time spent on page because they're like, you solved my problem. Okay, I'm going to sign up for your email list. But that might take 2 or 3 touch points. But over and over, we found landing page conversions straight from Pinterest just are really low.
Oh, that's super interesting. That's good to know. So you had mentioned, and I have heard before, is create like if I do a blog post, you said create 2 or 3 graphics. Yeah. I have heard in the past, like, no, create like 10. Like, is there tell us a little bit more about that. What's the sweet point there?
What's the skinny? We actually just did a podcast on this because in 2020, there was this rise from Pinterest of saying, create fresh pins. And as all good digital marketers do, we took it to the extreme and now it's 20 or 30. And Pinterest is like, no, what we meant was we want you to create new content and put these new images onto Pinterest, but you can create 2 to 3. Yeah. What a lot of people did at that time was they stopped creating new content like podcasts and blog posts and just started creating all images, and their traffic ended up going down because that's not what Pinterest wanted. So when we say the 2 to 3, really what we're trying to get at is you understanding what types of images drive conversions, make them very different, make them have different words on them, because Pinterest AI will read the words on the images and they figure out how to categorize it. So if it's about cleaning up Pinterest boards, or maybe it's about organizing Pinterest boards, those might end up in 2 different buckets. So we went deep dived into history, watched like old videos, and did that podcast like 2 weeks ago. So if people want to listen to that, that's the whole like fresh pins. It can die. It's not a thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know. Well, and I think it's really like any of the like social media platforms, like they are constantly changing. And I always say, pick one and like get good at that. Yeah. And then repurpose your content on older things. And so, repurpose your stuff on other platforms. Yeah. And so I think that I love that, but it's like, that's also too a testament as to why it's nice to hire somebody to do that, because, like I've taken a million, like I'm a course junkie. I've taken courses on Pinterest, on Facebook, but they're constantly changing. And so that's what is such a benefit of hiring an agency, because they're on top of the trends. Yeah. And it's time is money. Money is time. And so it's good to invest with somebody who knows exactly like what they're doing. So I think that is.
And our team too, like it's not just my brain, it's like 25 people's brains. So it's like we have 3 women devoted just to analytics, where when our team goes, something's not right, can you look to see if there's something here? They do a deep dive, or something's changed here. How do we do that? We have an educator that comes in and says, we need to switch the way that we're pinning, or we need to kind of turn on a dime for our clients. And you're right. Like if I'm going to hire somebody to edit my podcast, I want them to be a really good editor to where that's just all they do. I don't need to know about it. I don't need to understand it. I just need to say, please take this off my plate. And we found a lot of people, they felt anxious using Pinterest. And part of that, especially as women, was there's kind of this comparison trap, or this like fear of I'm not doing enough. And I see all these beautiful pictures. And even for them, it was like, I want to hire this out because I can't look at the platform. It's not good for my mental health because I just feel this trap of all the things I'm not doing. So not only hiring an agency that really knows what they're doing, but also I would tell people, if you're going to hire somebody, ask how they're staying educated, ask how they're staying up to date, because if I hire somebody from Instagram, I want to know that they have a trusted resource that's making sure they're updated. Yeah. And then I'm going to hire them.
Yeah, for sure. What are the trends? Another trend, for a while back was pinning other people's stuff is, like pin their stuff, like half as, like you pin their stuff 50%, your stuff 50%. Is that still a trend? Like what is the trend there?
Yeah, no trend. Actually, Pinterest says don't even worry about it. Pin 100% of your own stuff. So the only time we pin other people's stuff is if we like them and they're a cool business owner and we want to support them.
Yeah.
Or number two, you want to join in a small group, emphasis small,
Mhm.
where you collaborate on sharing each other's content purposely. There's reciprocity there.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of environments where people thought that this whole repinning of other stuff would like boost them. But
Mhm.
you have to remember the person who's repinning your stuff is not your ideal person. It's another business owner in the same
Yeah.
niche, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we tell people now, don't even worry about it. It's an old myth. There was 50-50, 80-20, 20-80. Just throw out any ratio you ever hear
Yeah.
and pin all your stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not going to there's no gotchas on Pinterest. There's no like, oh, you pin 10, you're out. They don't work like that.
Yeah, that's good to know. My other question to you was, what is like a realistic time frame? Because, we talked a little bit about like SEO, like there's not the instant gratification. It's a long game. But if somebody is just starting Pinterest and they're like, okay, I'm going to pin X amount of pins every week or whatever, like how much time should they expect before they start to see like the benefits of like the consistency of pinning?
Right. So if it's a new account, somebody who's totally cold to Pinterest, we tell them 6, 9, 12 months. You're just going to be adding and you're just going to be learning, right? Because anything that you do in that first year, you're going to reap some rewards in the second year. You're also learning if there's a seasonal component to if people like your stuff or they don't. So think of it as just investing over the year. Now, if you are seasoned and let's say you have a business account, but it's been a little neglected, or you even have a personal account that you want to convert to business, you might get a little quicker because you kind of have a backlog, but we still tell people 6 to 9 months, like you're not going to really get any good data sampling unless you invest that time. So a lot of people will start classic. We've heard it over and over. 6 weeks later, they're like, I'm done. I'm like, no, like, please don't be done. Keep going. And time and again, I will tell you that is going to benefit you. Now, time-wise, how much time should you put in? We recommend probably about 2 to 3 hours a week. And for some people, that can be sped up because you're really good at images in Canva, or you buy templates, or there's a lot of tools. Tailwind and Planoly are great scheduling tools. I know Tailwind got the AI feature, like whatever, forget that name right now, but they were able to get the AI tool to be able to ghostwrite to write descriptions for you quicker. So that's another way to speed it up. And if you've been creating content for a while, you might be able to pin like 5 or so pins per day. But if you're new to Pinterest, it's okay to just pin 1 pin per day. There's not a minimum. It's just consistent investment.
Yeah. Well, and also because I've used Tailwind in the past, also Pinterest has the feature on it where you can go and schedule out. Yep. So you can take a pin and you can, schedule out a whole week or a whole month.
Yep.
Because they have, native. I think you can schedule out like a month and a half out and they can do that. So there's also that option. I know, and I don't know how good it is and how well it's integrated with Pinterest, but also Canva has where you can only pin 1 graphic. That's the part about Canva that I hope they change. You can only pin 1 per like open project or whatever, so it's kind of tricky that way.
We did a test between the native, Canva, later Planoly, and Tailwind.
Yeah.
The only thing that Tailwind has is their interval scheduling tool, whereas you take 1 pin, you choose all the boards and it's whoosh and how many weeks you want it to go. And you could have it drip out for 6 months. So it kind of saves time that way. But again, if people don't have the funds to invest in that, you're right. The native scheduler, totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been like such awesome information. I have been like getting excited about Pinterest again. And so I'm like, I have to have her on my podcast. It's awesome. One of the things Kate and I were talking about before we hit record too, that I like, I'm obsessed with and I love is she was talking about how we have all these digital products out there and it's like so much information, people don't watch them. And so what she has done in her shop is she's kind of broken down into these little mini micro courses on how to understand like analytics or whatever, ads or whatever. And she breaks it up. And I love that because we're all at different places in our journey. And so she has that in her shop and we can, you guys can check out her stuff. I'm going to put the link in the profile, but I love that she has a ton of resources that you can use if you're ready to, whether you're ready to dive in or you're ready to just kind of like tiptoe in right now, but tons of different resources. Kate, I like to end, before I tell people how to find you, I like to end my podcast with asking my guests 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is, what is a pet peeve? So what is your pet peeve?
My pet peeve is actually crumbs on the floor in my kitchen, and I am walking with bare feet. Like, and my people, apparently nobody in my house has the same pet peeve, because they could go weeks without sweeping the floor and nobody would be bothered. The moment I step in there, I'm like, I can't breathe.
Yes. I have to wear flip-flops for that reason, because I'm like, I always have to have shoes on my feet for that reason.
100%.
I thought you were going to say, and nobody in my household knows how to sweep. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Well,
that's what I was thinking
too. They don't know how to sweep either. They apparently forgot how to sweep and where the broom is.
Yes, I feel you. I feel you on that one so much. So, okay. So then the next question I ask is, what is a simple pleasure?
Oh, simple pleasure. I would say, I live in the Northwest. We have a lot of beautiful places to go. And I love going to a winery with friends and just sitting there for like a couple of hours, because we can either see the river or it's like beautiful. Like, I just love that when I get to do it. But I would say like a day to day, like I'm obsessed with YouTube right now.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you watch? Like scrolling or like
travel?
Oh, me too. So Kate just talked about, she just got back from Portugal, and I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like, I love to travel. It's like my drug. So yes, I am too. You'll have to tell me who you like to follow on YouTube.
I will, for sure. Because I grab the iPad, I go into my bed, and I'm just like, okay, when's the latest episode? And I just watch it.
I love it. I love it. That's so awesome. Well, Kate, tell my listeners how they can find you and just all the information.
Yeah. Best way, since they're listening to a podcast, is hop over and search Simple Pin Podcast and just start absorbing the information about Pinterest, just so you can get an understanding of if it's right for you to invest in right now. And then kind of what's happening. We do a lot of updates too, as well. During the summer, we do a story series just with business owners where we just talk, right? So that will be coming up too, depending on when they listen, but lots of tips and tricks over there. 7 years of Pinterest podcasts.
Oh, that's awesome. And so we can also find you on Pinterest.
SimplePinMedia.com. Yeah. And then at SimplePinMedia everywhere.
Yeah. Awesome. And then what about, I'm sorry, I got to pull this out of you, but what about that checklist? Can we get the link to that checklist of cleaning up? Okay. We will put that in the show notes for sure. Well, Kate, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking all things Pinterest. It has been so much fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Let's not stop the party here. Head on over to my Instagram or Facebook group, Redefine Your Business, and let me know your thoughts about today's show. I will see you again, same time, same place, next week.